The Hawaii Sports Radio Network on 95.1 FM and AM 760 presents Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani.
Good morning, beautiful people. Let's wake up in the den. Ku'ule Agbayani, Paul Brecht. Happy Aloha Friday. Oh, lots to get into today, especially the newest announcement to come through this morning. Officially, maybe like about a couple hours ago. Unofficially, maybe about 7 hours ago. We'll tell you about that in just a second. Also coming up on the show, we talked about it extensively yesterday, but yesterday afternoon, all the NFL regular season schedules were released. And the most fun, of course, is just looking at all of the schedule release videos that are put on by the teams. And we'll tell you which one was our favorite. And it's funny because like my most favorite one is probably the lowest budgeted one that I watched as of this morning. I probably watched it like 6 times so far. So we'll let you know which one that is. Also, I kind of messed up a little bit on Twitter and got ahead of myself. This is what happens when you look through like 50 bajillion schedules, like just scrolling through everything, and things get a little crossed sometimes. So, but nonetheless, if you are making the trip to Las Vegas for the University of Hawai'i football game, there is no game the day after the UH game, but if you go early to Las Vegas, then you might get to see a team that a lot of Hawaii fans follow. So we'll talk about that coming up on the show. But first, let's run it back. The pick is officially in. We kind of teased it a little bit yesterday and at least my sources were correct, because
it's true.
Our Alan Mia texted me this morning saying, wow, that's not who I was expecting, because that's not who I was told. And I'm like, well, dude, you need to check your sources, because that's who I was told. And apparently you got it wrong. And so Alan needs to get new sources. But nonetheless, thankfully, my sources and my little birdies out there continue to tell me the right things. Unfortunately, in order to keep all of that going, to still be in the know. That's why I know some people get annoyed, but I just tease them a little bit. Sorry, not sorry.
It's all in good fun. At the end of the day, the information comes out when it's supposed to come out. It is a fun to know a little early as well.
And that's the funniest thing about this whole announcement. But first things first, after a comprehensive national search, University of Hawai'i President David Lassner has recommended Craig Angelos to be the next University of Hawai'i Manoa Athletics Director. The UH Board of Regents will be requested to approve his appointment at the Thursday, May 18th BOR meeting at HCC. If approved, Angelos would start Monday, June 5th, succeeding David Matlin, which is interesting because David Matlin's last day is supposed to be June 2nd. So he's starting after he's done. I guess there's really no transition process that I thought was, he's starting kind of late. I mean, it makes sense because he's not here. He has to move here, obviously, to have like his full-time job. But you would think it would have been a little earlier. But nonetheless, Angelos has more than 29 years of senior leadership experience in intercollegiate athletics at 7 universities and is currently the senior deputy director of athletics at Long Island University. He previously served as the athletic director at Florida Atlantic University for nearly 9 years, from 2003 to 2012, and as the number 2 person in the athletics department at 5 universities, including the University of Miami, which I know a lot of people were that stood out to a lot of people, Indiana University, University of South Florida, Temple University, and then finally at LIU. He also worked at the NCAA as a legislative assistant, interpreting all the NCAA rules and regulations, and has been an adjunct professor at 3 universities. So he has quite the resume that actually includes even building, well, obviously not him personally building, but contributing to building a stadium. So in addition to student athlete health and wellness, Angelos has years of experience in diversity, equity and inclusion, Title IX, NCAA compliance, and developing facilities, including a 30,000-seat football stadium at Florida Atlantic. He also has a proven track record in fundraising, which we always say is like basically it's fundraising and student athlete well-being that are like the top of their responsibilities. I'm an athletics director. So he's in fundraising, securing corporate sponsorships, ticket sales, creating new revenue opportunities, as well as having a deep understanding of the many consequential changes taking place in intercollegiate athletics today, including NIL, collectives, transfer portal, and conference realignment. So tons of experience. Yes, I know initially people are like, oh, he's not from here. No more Hawaii ties. But as we said in yesterday's show, don't let that knock whoever was going to be announced, because this is who we were thinking it was going to be. And I automatically thought, all right, some of the Hawaii people are going to be like, where's his Hawaii ties? Where is his Hawaii ties? Because I know that's important to a lot of people. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. People always want someone from Hawaii. But he obviously has a lot that he's done, very well qualified for the position. So at the end of the day, we just got to give him a chance. And that's the sentiment that we shared yesterday. It's like, just whoever comes in, just give him all the chance in the world. And then, you know what, people are going to hate anyways, even if he's doing a good job. That's what happens. That's what happened with David Matlin. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, nonetheless, welcome unofficially. Because once again, we still have to, it still has to be approved by the Board of Regents next week, Thursday. So he is just the official recommendation, but not officially the new athletics director, being Craig Angelos.
Which is also why we won't be able to talk to Mr. Angelos or anyone really from UH about it until next week publicly and until it goes through the board officially, which is why we had that whole meeting that we discussed earlier on in the week. I'm excited to see how he does. You mentioned a lot of the really fun things that he has experience doing. The stadium is the first thing that really made my eyes open up wide and kind of my ears perk up, because that's obviously been something that you and I have discussed on this show at a very extended period, and something that is very near and dear to the hearts of a lot of Hawaii fans right now with what's happening with Aloha Stadium. So I was happy to see that he does have experience there. And you mentioned it. He has nearly 3 decades of experience in, you know, the administrative side of collegiate athletics, which is really, really good. And for perspective, he has been doing that longer than I have been alive, longer than I have been on Earth.
Like, well, you haven't been on Earth very long.
Well, but the thing is, like, I'm 23 years old, which take that as you will. Like, some people are like, that's a child, and other people are like, oh, that's a new adult.
Yeah.
but seriously, think about that. My entire lifetime, plus 6 extra years, he has been doing multiple different jobs in this field. This is a guy who's not coming from a Power 5 school in like, you know, Texas or Alabama or UNC or whatever. This is a guy who just spent time at LIU, who understands that the rules are a little bit different here. He also, I do like, he was a collegiate baseball player at BYU, which I like, just in the matter of he knows he'll be able to connect with collegiate athletes that way, and the fact that, like, hey, yeah, I experienced it too, be it pre-NIL and whatnot, and different landscape.
Still can relate.
Well, it's more so the lifestyle. It's like, I understand how thinly stretched you're getting. Having that ability to connect with student athletes while also having all of the experience in the administrative side of athletics. I don't know. I'm excited to see what he does. Obviously, you know if you listen to this show, the people on this mic, except for on Wednesdays, I guess, are pretty typically very optimistic about things. So,
well,
I don't know.
That
excited.
other person on Wednesday, like I said, is probably kind of sad that he wasn't part of the show and he wasn't in the know like we were. So unfortunately, no. But and I'm glad you brought up his time at BYU. So just some personal background about about him, Craig Angelos, the recommended or expected to be recommended athletics director. He graduated from Creighton University School of Law and earned his bachelor's degree, as Paul mentioned, from BYU. He's originally from Utah, and he was the starting first baseman on that team. He played later professionally in Italy. He has a wife named Kristen and 6 children. So he's very good at time management and dealing with stress. So I guess he fits right into that position, because I can't imagine dealing with 6 children, a full-time job. And so he already gets it.
He absolutely does. I remember when the Jets hired Robert Saleh, that was one of the things that he had like a ton of kids. And I remembered thinking to myself, good, that means he knows how to deal with chaos when things are going awry. He's able to keep his calm. I would assume that's the same for Mr. Angelos.
Yeah, and we mentioned earlier, so Mr. Angelos, so that's actually a pretty good ring to it. Or Craig. We'll see. We'll see the kind of person he is.
Exactly.
If he lets us call him Craig, then he's pretty cool. It's going to be, I never called David Matlin Mr. Matlin. It's always David. Hey, David. Hey, David. So
that's the 23-year-old in me.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Now it's coming out. But yeah, we'll see. So as we mentioned, he is not allowed, or the media isn't allowed to necessarily talk to him directly, nor are we allowed to talk to President Lassner or the Board of Regents. But he did release a statement via the University of Hawai'i. And this is specifically why it's worded the way that it is. So he says, if I receive the approval of the Board of Regents, my first order of business will be to meet with all of our stakeholders, starting with our student athletes, coaches, donors, alumni, staff, and of course, our fans. Though UH has unique opportunities and challenges, being over 2,500 miles from the nearest Division I program, UH Manoa has a solid athletic program led by outstanding individuals that is in a prime position to continue to excel in today's rapidly changing world of collegiate athletics. I'm so excited to get started. Finally, I want to thank President Lassner for recommending me. It's truly an honor. If approved, I look forward to working with the entire community and making Hawaii my home for a long time. So that's important, because one of the things we were told on Wednesday during the media briefing is part of the reason why they don't want anyone speaking directly to the candidate is because they don't want any type of verbiage to come out that it seems like they're overstepping the Board of Regents and their approval. Like, because you can risk that person saying, oh yeah, I'm excited to get started, yada, 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 and I'm bringing all these ideas to the university. Meanwhile, he technically wouldn't have gotten hired yet because it still has to be approved. So that's one of the main reasons why they release an official statement, and that's all we'll hear directly, or I guess indirectly, from Craig Angelos. Anything else that you'll see mentioned, if it doesn't come directly from the university, it's probably just hearsay and not a direct quote. So I just want to reiterate what we talked about yesterday, in that due to the Sunshine Law, they have to put the recommendation on the agenda 6 days prior to the meeting, which it will be next week, Thursday. So they have to put it on the agenda 6 days prior, which is today. And the funny thing is, we thought, and we talked about this yesterday, we thought, all right, we're going to see the agenda released, and then we can see who the recommendation is and the applicants. Well, the agenda has not been released yet, because I've been checking all morning, mainly because they said more information, including the total number of applicants, the finalists, yada, 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 would be on there. So I want to be able to share that with everybody. But nope, that's not on there. So Paul and I kind of had a chuckle, in the sense that it seems like the university had to go ahead and just release this information to everybody, because other publications had posted it like we mentioned, like 7 hours ago, like 2:00 in the morning. So the UH is probably just like, all right, we just got to post it, and instead of waiting for the agenda, because when we were told by Dan Meisenzahl, the UH spokesperson, he said we would find out via email and when the agenda gets posted for the meeting. Yeah, like you said, no agenda yet.
No agenda yet. It was expected to come anywhere from 11 a.m. to 10 a.m. maybe 9 a.m. maybe a little before 9 a.m. to I woke up this morning to an email from UH at about 6:30 naming Mr. Angelos as the recommendation. I did one quick thing on him. I did like at the end of his statement, it is, because this is important as well, working with the entire community and making Hawaii my home for a long time, because that was a big part of this process as well, was they weren't looking for somebody who made UH just a stepping stone. They want somebody who's going to stay here and continue to help the university build on top of the wonderful things that it has been able to under the leadership of David Matlin.
And there's still a lot more to talk about in terms of just the entire process that they have gone through, and even the salary that Mr. Angelos, that has a funny ring to it. I don't know what it is. Now I'm going to have to say that, even though maybe when I meet him, it'll be Craig. But Mr. Angelos will receive in his new position. So we'll tell you about that. But we got to step aside. We'll be back on Wake Up in the Den.
Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Look. I got that wow. Who wants some hands up right now? We got that turn it up loud.
Dance party on this Aloha Friday. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brecht. It's Wake Up in the Den. Mahalo for tuning in this and every weekday morning from 8 to 9 a.m. We've been talking about the new recommendation for the new UH Mano Athletics Director, Craig Angelos. Mr. Angelos. So during the break, it hit me on why that has such a ring to it, where I'm saying Mr. Angelos is because it reminds me of The Matrix and Keanu Reeves' character, and when they call him Mr. Anderson. So that's what I've been thinking about, saying Mr. Angelos. Well, anywho, again, tried to refresh during the break. We don't see the meeting agenda come out yet. That is expected to have a little bit more detailed information in terms of more of the process. But this is via hawaiiathletics.com, which you guys can go ahead on there and read for it yourself, the full write-up. So we've talked about extensively before. The 8-person search advisory committee extensively reviewed over 60 applications. They followed standard UH practices under which 8 to 10 of the most qualified applicants are selected for interviews based on credentials and experience. So from the over 60, the committee narrows it down to 8 to 10. So that's like just a handful to only get just interviewed, and the rest of them essentially get thrown out. It's like, all right, you guys don't even qualify on paper, so no thanks. And so from the 8 to 10, 3 to 5 names are forwarded to the supervisor of the position, which is President David Lassner, as an unranked list. So that's important as well. And I remember actually Dan Meisenzahl telling me that, or telling us that it's unranked. So sure, some of the committee members would have their favorites. I'm sure not everybody agrees on which ones are their favorite, but nonetheless, they send them unranked. So there's no type of initial bias. So President Lassner can choose on his own between the 3 to 5 names. They list the strengths and weaknesses of each finalist as well. And after meeting with the search advisory committee, David Lassner interviewed each of the finalists and then selected Angelos as his recommendation to the Board of Regents. The recommendation memo to the board also includes a description of what is expected of the next athletics director, which is, quote, "The director of athletics must model integrity at the highest level, promote gender equity, inclusion, and diversity as they encourage and support a multicultural environment grounded in Hawaii, and carefully manage budget challenges by generating new revenues and containing costs. They must build and maintain effective and productive relationships with other academic institutions, athletic conferences, national intercollegiate athletics organizations, and the diverse athletic stakeholders within Hawaii and beyond. Even before the monumental shifts in intercollegiate athletics nationally, this position has been characterized as one of the most visible and challenging positions in the state." I would argue that at this point, it's probably like the most challenging between this and like the governor, probably the most challenging positions in the state right now, which is crazy to think that an athletics director would have as much of a challenging / stressful job as the governor. But there is just so much going on because, as it says, not only are there things going on in intercollegiate athletics itself, like the new NIL world that everyone's still navigating, the conference realignment that we're still worried about. Then you add in all the Hawaii kind problems with the stadium issue, building the thing on campus, dealing with the legislature, how much money you're getting, where upper campus is the one that approves how much you get, and all this other types of things that you have to manage. Yeah, I'm like, this is pretty stressful. It's right up there with being the governor.
But it's telling about the job itself and the type of people that probably applied for it, because once you get into those final, 8 to 10 interviews and then the 3 to 5 finalists, those people understand what they're signing up for a lot of times, because like you mentioned, there's a lot that goes into this job. It's one of the most stressful ones in the state of Hawaii, and it takes a special person to hold that job. I mean, look at Dave Matlin, who held it for 8 years, did a good job, but like it ages you quickly because of how much you have to do and how much you have to worry about. And it goes back to the experience of Craig Angelos and how he has experience in a ton of different departments when it comes to the NCAA, when it comes to different conferences and different places. He knows a good amount of people. He'll have those connections. He has that understanding from his experiences. And now he can focus a lot of his energy on the Hawaii part of things, where that's not necessarily normal kind when it comes to the job, at least back on the mainland,
Yeah, I think we've talked about it too when the applicants were going in, and like, who would want this job? It's so stressful, and at the recommended salary is, and I use the air quotes, is only $325,212, which is the same amount as current athletics director David Matlin. The recommended appointment also includes a $15,000 relocation / moving allowance. Like all executive positions at UH, the athletics director is an at-will position, meaning either the employee or the university may end the employment at any time. Future salary adjustments and conditions of employment will be in accordance with all relevant BOR and university policies and procedures. And don't get it twisted, people. If I were to make $325,000 a year, like, that would be awesome. But I'm just thinking of all the stresses that come with it. And like you said, how much it ages you. And I don't know how old his children are, but hopefully most of them are out of school, because if you're planning to send them to private school, if they're young enough and you're like, oh, I want to send them 6 of them to private school, yeah, you're going to need a little bit more than $325,000 if you want to afford like Punahou, Midpack, Iolani, all of those top private schools. So we'll see how that factors in on where you're going to send your kids to school, because it gets pretty pricey in Hawaii. And like, I can't even if they're, I mean, I'm assuming his children are out of at least like preschool age, but that's a whole nother stress that I've learned from friends, that just getting into preschool is either expensive or there's like a waiting list for the top preschools. I'm like, when did that even happen here?
Yeah, I don't know. I went to a daycare and then started kindergarten when I was 5. So pre-K, thankfully, was never something I had to worry about, but that sounds stressful in itself, let alone getting into the schools and then having to switch schools, and then there's the public schools and the private schools, and so much. It sounds terrible.
I'm glad. It seems like you and I turned out fine, because like I went to a preschool, but it wasn't necessarily like a like nowadays where it's very prestigious, like they really learn in preschool. I went to your traditional preschool where you take naps and you finger paint and you play in the sandbox. So all the stuff that you want to do as a kid, I don't even know if we did any type of like ABC stuff. I can't remember. I just remember all the fun stuff, like, again, taking naps and everything. And I was excited to go to school. And apparently, so this is a real quick funny story. like, I guess this is what my parents tell me. So I guess I was excited to go to preschool. And then so I'm like, oh, and then apparently all the other kids weren't. And so like all the other kids were crying, apparently.
They gotta leave their parents.
So I was just like, and then I guess I looked around and my little kid self was probably thinking like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? So I went from being really happy to then I started crying.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. Everybody else is upset.
So I wanted to go to school apparently, and then but I quickly changed my mind when I saw all the other little kids crying. But nonetheless, and I think my mom said it was only like $100 or something.
Bring back
either
those days.
$100 a month or something. But and that's the thing, right? Like even if you account for inflation, it
It's
still would
way
only be
more.
like $300, you know,
Yeah.
from $100 to $300. Where now, like some people are paying like over $1,000, and I'm like,
I was
Isn't it
looking
just
at
like
that with like houses and stuff, where the overall inflation is crazy. Like everything is so up. So it does not surprise me that schools would be up as well.
yeah. So that's why, hence, that's kind of the reasoning. And sorry, I got a little off track with the salary. And again, that was David Matlin's salary, but David Matlin's been here for a while. So, and he was previously running like the Hawaii Bowl and whatnot. So, but just looking at $325,000, thinking of the recommended athletics director, Craig Angelos's 6 children moving out here, cost of living, cost of goods, and yeah, and the stress. So that kind of, like I said, it just adds to the reasoning of $325,000 doesn't look that much after a while.
Pardon, oops. It goes away pretty quickly,
Yeah.
especially when it has that many different sources to go to. Because I think, 6 kids plus yourself plus a spouse, that's eight mouths to feed, 8 different people to take care of on that. Split that up 8 ways, it definitely goes very, very quickly.
Mhm. And so if you guys, I'm still refreshing this page. I really want to know if they're going to list like the other finalists at the very least. I'm not sure. I won't get my hopes up that they'll list the 10 most qualified applicants, but apparently, like what we were told, we should be able to see the other names that were at least forwarded to David Lassner, but that hasn't come across because the agenda for next week Thursday's Board of Regents meeting has not been posted yet. And again, it is publicly posted, so when it is, I'll be sure to kind of share that on our social media, and fingers crossed that hopefully it comes through before the end of the show. We'll keep refreshing the page, but when we come back, we're going to change it up and talk about the NFL schedule release, take a look at some early odds next on Wake Up in the Den.
You're listening to Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ule Agbayani on the all-new Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
Yes, we're taking on the world. Welcome back to all of you, the beautifulest of all the beautiful people. It's Wake Up in the Den, Ku'ule Agbayani, Paul Brecht, and for the first time ever, you people on YouTube. Yes. No, we're not streaming live, but this will be posted later today. So trying a new thing. Gonna try to we'll start off by putting Aloha Friday shows up, just because in case I need to, it gives a little more leeway to editing, and you guys can watch it over the weekend if you choose to. So yeah, later today or possibly tomorrow morning, we'll have this show up on YouTube, and you can see us. Wave at the camera, Paul. So we'll be on there on our YouTube channel. Just search for Hawaii Sports Radio. Yeah, just because it's summertime, like there's a bit more downtime than when everything is full-blown sports. So we definitely want to keep ourselves busy during the summer and start to do new things as we plan for the fall. So that's why I'm like, oh, let's try to do a little YouTube thing and see how it goes. And it's only one camera for now, and I think I found the best angle that we can work with at the time. And maybe if we get a lot of views, then we can upgrade and have, like the multi-camera and like do all the maybe extra editing stuff. So, but for now, this is what you guys have. But so welcome into our den and our studio for if you're going to watch this on YouTube.
It's what summer is for, though, and especially in the sports world. Sports world and the education world are similar, where you don't have the summer off per se, but you do have the summer to try a bunch of new things and try and figure out how you want to make yourself better for the upcoming year. And that's a lot of what we're going to do here at Hawaii Sports Radio Network is we're going to dip our toes in the water of a whole bunch of little fun stuff. And hopefully you guys like it. Some of the stuff I'm sure you won't, because that's just the way life works.
Yeah. Just like we've been talking about the athletics director recommendation. Some people won't like them, some people will, but we'll see. Full chances given, though. But nonetheless, switching gears to the NFL schedule release. Obviously, we're not really going to go through all the different schedules per se, but mostly just talk about the videos that each team creates. Paul and I were talking about it a little bit during the break. And yes, it's not like we watched every single video, just the ones that came out and stood out the most. My favorite, besides the Bears one, hence the hat I'm wearing today, in celebration of knowing the full schedule, the Bears one. So I don't know if anybody watches the Bear. It's a series on FX. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it has it's about like a chef in a restaurant, and it's the actor from Shameless, the Lip from Shameless. So he's in there. It's based in Chicago. So they had all of they had former Bears players, current Bears players. They had Seth Rollins and some people that are directly related to Chicago as either cooks or customers in the little quick series. So I thought that was really cool, especially because I do watch that show. And it was funny how they kind of took jabs. And I feel like a lot of the videos did that, which we'll get to in just a second. But in that video, they clearly took jabs at everyone within their division. So for the Packers, someone had placed an order for extra cheese on a brat. And so I think it was Justin Fields, actually. Justin Fields was like, who gets cheese on a brat? But then it was a Packers fan, obviously. And then the Detroit person came in and asked for 2 hot dogs with ketchup. And if you know anything about Chicago and Chicago hot dogs, you do not get ketchup on the hot dogs. So I remember. So I'm somebody that loves ketchup in general on hot dogs and extra ketchup with French fries. So the first time I went to Chicago with my other half, we got hot dogs, and I attempted to put ketchup on the hot dog, and he looked at me and he's like, I'm gonna walk away from you right now. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I don't want to get beat up.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, we're gonna get shamed. You're not supposed to put ketchup on the hot dog, especially in Chicago. So learned my lesson. Mustard, okay. Every other condiment under the sun is okay except for ketchup in Chicago. But anyways, it was a Detroit person in the schedule release video that asked for 2 hot dogs with ketchup. And then the Vikings one, it was 2 people trying to enter the restaurant wearing Vikings jerseys, and then the Bears person stopped them at the door, whoa, no Vikings fan allowed. And I think what was the quote? It was oh yeah, if you with the Vikings, you get to hiking. So it was a fun one. I hope non-Bears fans enjoyed it. I'm sure everyone watched at least their team ones, but the Bears, obviously more fandom for the show, and of course the team was my favorite. My favorite that was not part of my team had to be the Tennessee Titans. Almost low budget, took the least amount of time to make the video, and it was essentially just those where they go out on the street and then they ask people, just random people on the street at somewhere in Tennessee, to identify logos of the NFL teams that are on their schedule. And there's so many random, they had Chester Cheeto, which was the Jaguars, and then
they had Lightning McQueen for the Chargers, which made me giggle.
So cute. And twice, not once, but twice, because they do play them twice. Twice people guessed the Cowboys for the Colts logo, which was hilarious. And I think one of them was, they were so sure of themselves, Cowboys, woohoo! And no, it was the Colts that they guessed. Lightning McQueen. And then the second time around for the Jags, it was the team that doesn't exist. The girl was she's like, no, that doesn't exist. And the way it's edited, I encourage you guys to look it up if you want to chuckle. They used, when they flashed on the screen the team and the date of the game. They actually like put what the people said, even like the young ladies guessing the Steelers, they were like 49ers, 69ers, Stars.
Ooh, boy.
And they put that on the schedule. And one lady was like, when shown the Seahawks logo, she's like, Eagles, Eagles, Eagles. And they asked her from where. They're like, she's like, Pittsburgh.
Hey,
it was hilarious. I've watched it like 5 times, you guys. I just chuckle every time. I attempted to watch the Dallas Cowboys one, but it is like long, like 6 minutes, and my attention span just didn't go that far. Plus, it's based after, I believe, the popular TV show Yellowstone, which I don't watch, so I was just kind of like, yeah, this is boring me already. So I watched maybe like the first minute and I was done. The other one which is Paul's favorite, is the one by the Chargers. They did it last year and they did it again with the anime. So it's pretty cool, mainly because they have all the cameos within it. That's the cool part.
Yeah.
And especially if you're on their schedule like the Jets are, you can pick up on all the little instances and how they're like basically throwing shade at your particular team.
Oh, it was so funny to go through, and obviously I didn't spend as much time looking at every slide or every scene as I did the Jets one, but the Jets one, they had like this frame of Times Square and on the billboards it was like, I heart New Jersey, which is funny because the joke is that the Jets and the Giants both play in New Jersey instead of New York City, which is true. There was like a little Geno Smith comeback player of the year just reference.
Oh.
There was a missing poster of a former New York Jets beat writer that like all New York Jets fans just were not a fan of. That after he got fired, the entire Twitterverse of Jets fans just celebrated. So there's a missing poster of him in there. Like there were so many little Easter eggs that just didn't make sense. Like how do you know this other fans like inside jokes? And it was like that for almost every single one. They had Mina Kimes in there. It was an exceptionally well made video. I enjoyed it, and it was still on the longer side, and I was able to.
No, but it was interesting.
Right, I was able to
that's
keep
probably
my
my third favorite.
through. Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those ones that's up there. Probably finishes in the top 5 for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Where it's like between the effort and the little jokes that are in it, it's too good not to like.
Yeah, and I feel like I was a little out of the loop. Thank you, Paul, for during the break. Reminding me, because I didn't initially get it. So one of the jabs that they took is that the Detroit Lions are on their schedule, and it's basically a freeze frame. I think it's like a lion's plush looking doll with like being cut in half or something, but it's this free, and it's kind of a long, like some of these other cameos were like really flashes and you couldn't really tell what they were if you were just not pausing the video in between. Like we mentioned, Mina Kimes and Lenny were in it.
Shout out Lenny.
Pat McAfee and AJ Hawk were in it, like flying the helicopter. So a lot of like celebrity cameos within it. But the Detroit Lions one had probably the longest freeze frame, and it had the disclaimer of gambling problem, yada 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 yada. So it had like all the verbiage of when you see the disclaimers at the bottom of a lot of these gambling ads with the Detroit Lions. And why is that again, Paul?
Mr. Jameson Williams would probably be much happier to answer your question with his time that he'll have serving a suspension at the beginning of the season.
So like really clever.
Just little jabs.
I know. So if you guys haven't watched it and you're pressed for time, again, we recommend those two, the one by the Tennessee Titans and of course the LA Chargers. If you guys are a fan of that TV show The Bear, then of course watch the Chicago Bears one because you'll be very entertained, or naturally if you're a Chicago Bears fan. But yeah, it was pretty good. One last anecdote about the schedule itself. So obviously when the schedules come out, a lot of the odds start coming out, and the Kansas City Chiefs are the only NFL team favorite in all 17 of the games this coming season in DraftKings Sportsbook.
Well, I know that week 4 they shouldn't be because they got the New York Jets coming to town with Aaron Rodgers. That's actually going to be the first time Rodgers and Mahomes will play against each other because the first time that they were supposed to match up, Mahomes was out with the knee injury or the kneecap injury. Second time was Rodgers immunized COVID fiasco. And now, knocking on wood, this would be the first time those two all-time great quarterbacks face off against each other in the regular season.
Well, at least
Or
one has
postseason,
more Super Bowls.
True. I hope until after the season.
You're hoping it'll be tied after this. But yeah, so the Kansas City Chiefs, I think they were the favorites. They might. I gotta look it up during the break. I'm pretty sure as the season went on last season, they were the favorites like all the way through the season. I think one time it took a dip when they were going to play somebody, and then by the time the lines closed, they were the favorite again or something crazy like that. But anyways, we'll be back to wrap up the show on Wake Up in the Den.
Back to more Wake Up in the Den with Ku'ulei Agbayani on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM and AM 760.
3, 4, 3, 4, check my latitude. Top floor, that's who in the zoo. Strut move like whoop down the avenue. Hey,
Welcome back to Wake Up in the Den. Ku'ulei Agbayani, Paul Brax on the Hawaii Sports Radio Network, 95.1 FM, AM 760, hawaiisportsradio.com. Follow us on social media at High Sports Radio. Check us out on YouTube, Hawaii Sports Radio, where you can see this show, our first one ever. Well, hopefully. I didn't get up to check the camera. It looks like it's still on. Never know. This is the first time we're doing this, people. Bear with us as we are having fun on this Aloha Friday. We're talking about the NFL schedule and spoke about the entire process for the new athletics director. It's funny because I've been refreshing this Board of Regents page that has the agenda, minutes, and materials. I got really excited because it does have meeting dates, and May 18th showed up, but it says meeting type, career, and technical education. And I clicked on the agenda, and nothing in the agenda has anything about what we were expecting it to be about. And the agenda items aren't even on there either. So, because there's another section that you click that says like the minutes and documents and materials. So I clicked on that and I didn't see anything about it. So yeah, I don't know. I got to dive into this. And granted, this is like the first time I've tried to do this. I'm just going based on what they told us. But yeah, the whole athletics director thing doesn't fall under career and technical education. As we mentioned, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, just to backtrack, we were told that the recommendation to the Board of Regents would be publicly posted on the agenda for the Board of Regents to review at their meeting on May 18th, because for Sunshine Law, it has to be posted 6 days before the public meeting. And that's why I'm checking the agenda, because we were told that we would have a little bit more of the information on the process. And who knows, maybe I took it the wrong way, but I was hoping to have more information in the sense that we would know who at the very least the other finalists were. But if they never released that, maybe it wouldn't be a bad thing, because then I know people would feel more like they're the cooks in the kitchen, where they're like, oh, it should have been this person. Why is David Lassner doing? Because someone's going to see their guy or girl that they probably would have wanted instead, and then it's going to cause like a whole different uproar. So I can understand if they don't want to release it, but if it's part of the requirement or the process, then, you can't hide it. But so we'll see.
I don't know. We were told anywhere between 9 and 11. It is a little before 9, so maybe we're still waiting on that part of the agenda. I don't know. We told you guys it's this process has been different from previous processes when it comes to hiring an athletics director or other positions at the university, where it's different.
And you're right. Now that I scroll through the meeting type, so I think that's one portion of one of the meetings, because if you go down, there's maybe like under one meeting date, there's like multiple, some days have multiple types of meetings, and then different agendas for those topics. So in other words, like if I look at May 4th meeting date, under meeting type, there's intercollegiate athletics, and there's an agenda for that, and academic and student affairs, and there's an agenda for that. So this is the first agenda via being the career and technical education. And then probably, maybe within the next couple of hours, we'll see another agenda that has to deal directly with this hiring process. So I was hoping, I got so excited. I was like, I saw it refresh and I saw meeting date show up May 18th. And I was like,
well, yeah, during the break, you made some sort of excited noise. And I was like, what happened? And I realized, put together some context clues. I was like, oh, it seems we might have gotten our information. We did not. We did not.
Unfortunately not. It's okay. We'll stick around, and like I said, I'll post it on social media because we're up against the clock. So I doubt, even if it came through like right when we're about to end, or we can just keep continuing for our YouTube video and talk about it. But we'll see when it comes up. Again, just check. It's all public information. You can go to hawaii.edu/offices/BOR to, look at all of the other things for the Board of Regents, because everything's as required is posted publicly. All right. Last but not least, Paul was actually out at Mauna Loa High School yesterday. We have we have the HHSAA boys volleyball championships going on right now, and it was kind of a quick night for you though.
It was.
It was
I was thankful
sweeps,
for that, to be totally honest. Like, I was worried about rain all throughout the night. Luckily, it was a beautiful drive back. But no, 2 quick sweeps, top-seeded Moanalua in straight sets, and then Punahou in straight sets. It was, and I will say, I don't want, like, Hilo or KS Maui to, any fans to think, like, oh, these guys are dumping on our guys. They played well. It's just they ran into a pair of teams that as soon as they get it going, you really can't do much, if anything. And I'm excited to see what those 2 teams do here tonight.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be insane. So the number 1 overall seed, Moanalua, plays Punahou tonight in one of the Division 1 semifinals. That game is scheduled for 5 p.m. out at Moanalua. The second semifinal is Kamehameha Schools Kapalama taking on Kamehameha Schools Hawaii. That game will follow the first match at around 7 p.m., depending how long, which we can anticipate that first match to likely go to 5 sets because Punahou and KS Kapalama have battled throughout this season. So we have the 2 Kamehameha schools on one semifinal, and then Moanalua and Punahou in the other semifinal. And again, both those games are out at Moanalua at 5 and 7 p.m. In the Division 2 side, number 1 overall seed University plays Waimea in one of the semifinals, and then we have IAEA taking on St. Louis in the other semifinal. Those 2 games are at Bradford, same times at 5 and 7 p.m. I must admit, though, we're the home of, we're the radio broadcast partner for the OIA, and I'm an OIA grad out of Mililani, so I'm always, that's just like a Hawaii thing. We have a certain bias for whether we're OIA or high schools in the ILH. But I must say, if you aren't a Kamehameha Schools grad or a Punahou grad, but if you even are an ILH grad, I don't know, you got to be pulling a little hard for Moanalua at this point to win Division 1, because if you look at the state tournament record, it's all been ILH schools. The last OIA school to win was Roosevelt in 1979.
My goodness.
That was the last OIA school to win. And Hilo from the BIIF one is the only outer island school to win back in 1969. And then you had Farrington a couple of years, but other than that, it's been pure dominance by especially Punahou with a little sprinkle of Kamehameha Kapalama and Iolani. But other than that, it's just been Punahou. And even on the Division 2 side, last year was the first time that an OIA school won Division 2 in Pearl City, coached by Sean Chang, who is part of our broadcast here. And other than that, it's been pure dominance from the ILH with a sprinkle of Seabury Hall and Kapa'a, and that's about it. So we're cheering for Moanalua, you guys. Like, come on, let's go. Na mene hune.
Baby, come on.
Na mene hune. I know I have a couple of friends that are Moanalua grads, so again. But either way, looking forward to great competition, and best of luck to all of the student athletes competing in the New City Nissan Boys Volleyball State Championships. Happy Aloha Friday. For Paul Brecht, I'm Ku'ulei Agbayani. Mahalo for listening. Bye.